second student presenter is Joel Shaffer. Joel Shaffer is a candidate for the Bachelor of Science degree in Computer Engineering. Joel is one of these students with a very interesting mind. Maybe there's a joke. On the one hand, he'll give you a perfect answer to the most challenging question, almost seemingly without thinking about it. On the other hand, he will infuriate you when he looks bored, spaced out, and uninterested in the daily routine of everyday classes. This is to say that we believe that as he prepares to graduate, if he finds the right corporate match, the star will not be his limit, pun intended. It is a pleasure to welcome Joel Shaffer to your visit now. The title of his talk is Stat Assist, an improved method for fast-paced stat keeping.
Thank you, Dr. Corley, for that interesting introduction. As you said, my name is Joel Shaffer. I'm pursuing a BS in computer engineering. I'll be graduating this year. Ever since I was a kid, I've been obsessed with inventing new things, coming up with new ideas and the next big thing. I took all kinds of ideas to my dad when I was a little kid on pieces of paper and showed them to him, and he was always real excited, like, oh yeah, write your name on that, sign it so that in case you get it patented one day. It wasn't until I was about 12 or 13 probably that I took him an idea and he kind of set it on the table and was like, Joel, sometimes the best ideas aren't these crazy, lavish, ridiculous inventions that you're trying to do. Sometimes the best inventions are just improvements on existing designs. And that's basically what I pursued with my senior project. Stat keeping in the sports world is extremely inefficient as it stands. Most people don't really think about it. We just take it for granted. But my goal was to improve the methods. So what are the problems in it as they stand today? There's 3 tiers of stat keeping. There's the professional use, the amateur use, and then the recreational use. The professional use is more like the NBA, the Olympics, bigger D1 basketball schools. I'm not even concerned with that. I'm focusing more on the recreational use and the amateur use, which is more like YMCA league games, random leagues you can find around the city. And these stats need to be readily available because there's really no point in keeping stats if people aren't going to see them. Manpower is a big problem. This is where efficiency comes into play. To keep stats, usually one person runs the stats for each team. That's the only way to really keep it effective and accurate. I'm trying to see if I can reduce that to one person. And the current methods have flaws. As you can see here, it says one team only. I mentioned that. And a lot of the software-based ones are too complex, or the user interface isn't intuitive at all. It takes a long time to learn. So what are these current methods? There's paper, which you can find in a lot of lower-end high school games or YMCA league games where you just scribble down the stats. It's the most primitive way. And there's the computer programs, where you can type it in on a computer, but a lot of these require multiple keystrokes. For example, if number 25 got an offensive rebound, you might have to put 250R enter. That's like 5 keystrokes for one stat. Let's see if we can reduce that a little bit. Similarly, phone and tablet applications they have privatized data, which means all the data is stored on the phone or the tablet, and it's not really spread out. No one can view it. And they're also complicated UIs. Here's a couple examples of those. I found these on the Apple App Store. This first one here, iTouch Basketball. I just want to say this is actually a really powerful application, but the best programs can be ruined by a poor interface, and that's kind of what happened here. It's a disaster. The buttons are all mashed together. You can't really tell what's going on. It takes forever to learn. And even to add stats, you'd have to press a player, press the stat. That's 2 touches on the screen. We need to reduce that to 1. Similarly, in Basketball Stat Keeper Scout Lift, you need to press the player, you need to press the stat. Inefficient. Same goes for this one. So we need an improved method. One person can rescore the stats. more logical, intuitive user interface is designed, and any data input can be viewed by people. So what's this going to look like? I put together a list of requirements. This is pretty lengthy, so I'm just going to kind of give you a summary of these. Number one, there needs to be a database paired with a website so that all the data is shipped to this main hub and can be shipped off to a website. There needs to be a quick functional back-end code. What this does is it needs to be reliable, it needs to be consistent, and it needs to be able to ship these stats to the database in real time. And last but not least, I need a clean, functional, logical user interface. As I said, a great program can be ruined by a poor interface, so I need to focus on that. This is the big key for my interface, this single touch stat modifications. I want to reduce the screen touches. I want every touch on the screen to translate into one stat. It'll improve efficiency, and it'll make it possible for one person to keep track of both teams' stats. Here's the requirement flowdown. It's a visual architecture. It's basically the exact same thing as you just saw, just in a visual format. As you can see here, the code I created from scratch. And when I first presented this project, I remember Dr. Cornley asked me, are you going to use some sort of template, or are you going to do this from scratch? I thought that was a ridiculous question. I'm just like, I'm going to do it from scratch. And I didn't realize how daunting of a task that really was. Right now, this project holds over 3,700 lines of code. It's a lot. That takes a significant amount of time. If we assume that each line takes about 90 seconds, if that includes writing, tweaking, testing, testing is a significant, it eats up a lot of time. It's going to be 93 hours of just coding, and I definitely spent that, possibly more on it. It's just the coding. To put that in perspective, if I were to hire a freelance C# writer, that's what I designed it in C#. A lower level C# writer charges about $20 an hour for his services. So times 92 comes out to about $1,900. I actually talked about this with someone in the software industry and asked them if I were to pitch this to someone and for them to get up where I am right now. He said it would be in excess of $2,500 probably. So I hope that gives you an appreciation for the work that I've put into this. All right, so I need to improve that efficiency. Since basketball is a very fast-paced game, it needs to be efficient. And as I said, each touch needs to produce data. So this means three things. First, one player can't be selected. As you saw in the other apps, you have to click the player and then click the stat. I want one button press translated into one piece of data. Does this mean that both teams need to be visible at once? If you're going to only press once, that means you can't really press to switch teams. All 10 players need to be available on the screen. And also, since there's no prompt for confirmation, like did he make this shot, you need to have an undo button because mistakes are bound to happen. I've actually had a little bit of background in user interface. I worked for Applied Vision in Ohio this past summer as a software tester, mainly user interface. So I got to sit in and join in on a lot of user interface meetings. And it's interesting to see how these people work. They're like coding philosophers, I'd say. They take things to a deeper level. I ran across this online, and it kind of cracked me up. It's nerd humor. How many user interface experts does it take to screw in a light bulb? If you were to ask a user interface expert, he would say something like, well, why are we assuming that screwing in a light bulb is actually going to solve the problem? How about we hold a couple meetings and see if we can redefine how to screw in a light bulb or gather light altogether. Maybe we don't even need the light bulb. So they take it to just these ridiculously deep levels, but that's kind of what you got to do. So this intuitive user interface, we need to have obvious functionalities. The buttons need to be clear, the labels need to be clear. There can't be any confusion. It's got to be like basically a kid can pick it up and use it. That's kind of the goal. We want to reduce the frustration by having that easy to use format. Also, I want to be able to push the data in real time. Because let's be honest, what's the point of keeping stats during the game if they're not going to be available in real time? Couldn't you just watch the game film afterwards and record the stats then? We need this to be available to everyone watching the game or not watching the game. So here's a couple screenshots of my application. I'm actually going to do a video walkthrough since it's on a tablet. If I did a live demonstration, not all of you would be able to see it. So I'll get to that in a second, but I just want to explain. These right here are shot sliders. This is a build off of my one-touch focus. If you click one of these and drag up, it indicates a made shot. You click it and drag down, indicates a missed shot. This first column here is free throws, 2-pointers, 3-pointers. All the other buttons I'll get to in the walkthrough. Here is, this is my view of the database. It's like password protect and everything, so only I can really see this. But just to show you, this is the stats table. There's 4 columns here, and this last column is the stat type. This is really what we're looking at. There's an enumerator in my code that takes the stat type, such as free throw made, and turns it into an integer, 0. When you're shipping these off to a database, you don't want all these words. You just want a simple integer. Numbers are a lot easier to work with. And here's my website. This is a mobile-friendly website. It's statassist.azurewebsites.net. You can even go there if you want right now and put in 30,033 as the game ID down here, and you should see some stats pop up. So, onto the video demonstration here.
So here's the walkthrough. There's a mobile application for tablets that run Microsoft 8. As I said in my presentation, there's 3 main components to this. There's the actual application, there's the cloud server that holds the database, and then there's the website that holds data on that database. So we're going to start with launch status system. The first page we see has 3 buttons on it. There's add new team, add new player, and create a new game. Let's go ahead and add a new team. And we'll call them the MIT engineers. Save. And they show up here to the right on the list of saved teams. As you can see, there's Clippers and Trailblazers already entered in. Those are pre-made teams. Let's go ahead and add a player to the engineers. Let's put in Shaffer. Jersey number 15. Save that. And they pop up over there under the saved players. If we want to go ahead and scroll through the other teams, you can see the saved players on their team. Let's go back. Let's start again. We have 4 rosters for the Clippers and Trailblazers. So let's make a game with them. It prompts you to select the away and then the home team. And then we can start the game. You're brought to the main gameplay page, and here on the left, there's 5 slots. These are for the starting rotation, the starting 5 players for each team. So let's go ahead and fill that in. Let's put Damian Lillard, Wesley Matthews, Nicholas Batum, LaMarcus Aldridge, and Robin Lopez. Hit toggle teams, get to the Clippers. We'll put in Chris Paul, Jamal Crawford, Caron Butler, Blake Griffin, DeAndre Jordan. All right, so you're ready to get started. At the jump ball, we'll just toggle to whoever wins the jump. So let's say the Trailblazers got it first. And let's say on the first drive, LaMarcus Aldridge misses a 2-pointer. As you can see, this little smart bar pops up here on the bottom, prompting for a defensive rebound. In addition, the utility buttons here light up for the offensive players. Since anyone on the court is capable of getting a rebound, we needed 10 buttons to be activated to record a rebound. So that's what these utility buttons are for. Let's go ahead and say that Robin Lopez got an offensive rebound. Smart bar disappears, possession stays with the Trailblazers. And let's say he misses the putback. Once again, the utility buttons light up, the defensive players pop up. And let's say the defensive rebound is time DeAndre Jordan. All right, and let's say Blake Griffin turns it over that drive. Possession switches back to the Trailblazers. Now, keep in mind that as I'm pressing these buttons, these stats are being shipped off to the cloud server, to the database. And this can be accessed immediately by the website. Okay, now let's say Nicholas Batum makes a 3-pointer. Possession is switched because the Clippers now have the ball. And in addition, the assist bar pops up. As you can see, Nicholas Batum is grayed out. He can't assist himself on the shot, so we're not going to allow that even be possible. Say Damon Mulder assisted him. All right, now one thing we can do is on-the-fly substitutions. In a lot of apps, it takes a little bit more work than just one or two button presses. But in this, it's a lot easier. Say Jamal Crawford goes out for Nick Young. It's that simple. Now all these buttons respond and send stats for Nick Young. We can do the same thing with the Trailblazers. Wesley Matthews is out for Darrell Wright. It's as easy as that. All right, now we're going to move on to the fouls. As you can see over here, there's two foul buttons. There's a foul and a shot foul. For a non-shooting foul, we'll press the foul. Again, the utility buttons light up. Smart bar pops up asking for a defensive foul. Also note that whenever the smart bar pops up, these gray out because you can't make a substitution then, obviously, because one of these people committed the foul. So let's go ahead and say it was a defensive foul on Nicholas Batum. Ball is going to stay with the Clippers. On an offensive foul, it would switch possession. All right, now let's go to the shot foul. This is a little bit more complicated. This top row here is who the foul is on. So you select one from the Clippers. Since the shot foul is obviously a defensive foul. Let's say Chris Paul fouled Darrell Wright. Now you can see these two buttons over here at the bottom right, up here. These are the same buttons you see in the main page. We'll say he made a three-pointer. And who assisted him? Mark Soldridge. Note that the possession doesn't switch on that make because it was a shot foul. It knows that there are free throws coming up. And let's say he misses that free throw. Caron Butler gets the rebound. Switches possession. Blake Griffin makes a two-pointer assisted by Chris Paul. There's a turnover by LaMarcus Aldridge. As you can see, there's this natural flow, and it's very intuitive, quick, and responsive. Note that the game ID down here on the bottom right is 40,034. Keep that in mind. Let's go ahead and exit this app. Bring up Internet Explorer, where I have Windows Azure already brought up. As you can see here, there are 4 data tables in my database. There's the game table, player table, stats table, and team table. Let's go ahead and take a look at what's in the game table exactly. Okay, you see here there's 4 main columns. There's the ID, the start date and time, the away team ID, and the home team ID. That's all the information you need for the game. Let's go to the team. The team only has 2 columns. There's the ID and the name. As you can see, the MIT Engineers, which I just created, is right there. Player table, there's the player ID, the name, the team ID, and the jersey number of the player. There's me down there that I just created. And the stats table. This is really what we're concerned with. Each stat is given a number, increments by 1 each time. There's a game ID, in which the stat took place, a player ID, who is credited with the stat, and then there's a stat type. It's this, these numbers off to the right here. Now, if you remember back earlier in my presentation, I showed you an enumerator, which translated a specific stat type to an integer. That's exactly what these are referencing right here. All right, so let's go ahead and go to my website. It's staticist.azurewebsites.net. Now, if we want to find a game, we'll go over here, bring up my keyboard. I believe it was 40,034. And you're going to be presented with this pop-up. Now, if you can read this, it looks like gibberish at first. But let's look at this top line. You have the ID, which is the stat ID, the game ID, what game it took place in, the player ID, whose stat it is, and the stat type. And there's just a list of all of these. So it looks messy, and it is messy right now. But with a little bit of work, this is going to end up looking like a box score you might see on ESPN or NBA.com. You'll have players with their respective rows and their stats in there, along with the team stats. So that's a quick look at Stat Assist, my senior design project. I hope you enjoyed it.
All right, so there's been a lot of work that's gone into this, clearly, but this is graduated from not just a senior design project, but it's something I want to continue working on for the next year or so. I want to develop it further and actually maybe market this. So what are some of these future plans I have for it? First, I want to show the score and the stats in the actual application. The only place to get that right now is on the website, and that's kind of dumb. It needs to be available for the person keeping the stats as well. I want to look into getting a patent on the one-touch logic sliders for data recording. I haven't seen anything like that in the market, and I think that would be a very patentable idea. If you saw in the presentation, there was an undo last action button on the right. That button's actually dead right now. It does nothing. I'm working on implementing that and its related items. And since we have all this data, all these stats on the website, why not create some sort of ranking algorithm to rank the players' respective values? I want to add leagues to the database hierarchy. Right now, teams is the highest. But if there's 100 teams in the database, you're going to have to scroll through 100 teams to find yours. So if we add leagues, it would compartmentalize it more. And I want to do that with usernames and passwords as well, so that, let's say the ENC Lions have a team on here. We don't want Curry coming in and giving us terrible stats. So that's basically it. Does anyone have any questions about the presentation or the app itself? Yes?
Have you actually sat with watched a game on TV yet with the Trailblazers?
Not a whole game, no, just little clips. Yeah. Those just happen to be two of my favorite teams. That's why I made them. Yeah. Yeah.
Did you actually try and use the other apps you saw on App Store?
Yeah, I used a couple of. I didn't use the very first one, the messy one, because that was like $10. I didn't really feel like buying it. But all the other ones on there I did. I saw basically a walkthrough of that one app, so I saw how it was used and learned how to do it. So yeah, I actually got some ideas of how to better things from watching those. Yes, John?
How applicable is this type of sports without really rewriting the code?
It would be applicable. You'd have to, there'd be a lot of rewriting, but the whole logic sliders and stuff, that would all be the same. The starting rotation things would be the same. So there'd be a lot of similar code. It wouldn't take nearly as long to implement it for like soccer or hockey or pick your sport. But yeah, it could definitely translate over into other sports. Yes?
Why C#?
It's my favorite. I learned it a lot this past summer in my internship. And also, the user interface is written in XAML, which is really compatible with C#, at least in my mind. There's a nice pairing there. So that's why I chose that. Anyone else? All right.
Is there any reason you say cut out professional ball or?
As far as I'm concerned, it's an impenetrable market. I mean, they have top of the line stuff, and they have the manpower of an army. You know, you look at the score table down there beside an NBA game, and there's like 50 people keeping stats. So, I mean, they're not going to want an app that reduces that to 1, you know, because they have the money to pay more people. But recreational use, you know, those leagues are either free or they don't cost much money. So they aren't going to hire a bunch of people to keep stats. So that's why I'm really focused on the recreational side of it.
I think there's some money to be made in the professional market. Because I think you can cut that army down considerably by using a little engineering instead of people keeping all the stats. So.
It could be. In the future, once I develop it a little more, I might make a push for it. I don't know.
But I mean, the simple thing is you don't have location on there or something.
Mm-hmm.
There's something called RF tags that you can put in the uniform, and it would automatically record the location as well and stuff. So
Oh, yeah.
really,
Get a lot of metric data that
I
way.
don't think people have done this yet. So I think big market there.
Yeah, definitely. Anyone else?
So your patent search,
Yes.
how did that go?
Pretty well. I didn't see anything with the data sliders like this. There were some for like the algorithms and such, like ranking algorithms. There's some patents for that, but I'm sure it wouldn't be too hard to make a unique algorithm. They're very subjective, you know, of who's better, who's worse. But as far as the sliders go, I haven't seen anything.
Any more questions for the speaker? Well, let's take the speaker.